It is now 3 o'clock. I will call the Government Oversight Committee meeting to order. Michael, will you please take the roll?
Thank you. I'll start with Committee Chair Hall.
Harold Haw, remotely, Roseville, Macomb Township, Michigan.
Thank you. Chair Brown.
Don Brown, voting remotely from Washington Township, Michigan, Macomb County.
Commissioner Kleinfeld.
I think Harold meant Macomb County, not Macomb Township. Veronica Kleinfeld. Roseville, Macomb Township. Veronica Kleinfeld, East Point, Macomb County, Michigan.
Thank you.
Commissioner Romano.
Commissioner Romano, District 4, Sterling Heights, President participating remotely in Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Kraft. And Commissioner Kraft had indicated he might be a little late. Commissioner Wallace.
Commissioner Wallace, voting remotely from Mount Clemens, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Song.
Commissioner Song, attending remotely from Warren, Macomb County, Michigan.
Thank you. Commissioner Van Sickle.
Commissioner Van Sickle, attending remotely from Sterling Heights, Michigan, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Zinner.
Commissioner Barbara Zinner, attending remotely from Harrison Township, Michigan, Macomb County. Thank you.
Commissioner Matuzik.
Commissioner Matuzik, attending remotely from Clinton Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Farrington.
Commissioner Jeff Farrington, voting remotely from Utica, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Sabatini.
Commissioner Sabatini, attending remotely from Macomb Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
And Commissioner Nard.
Commissioner Nard, attending remotely from Warren, Macomb County, Michigan.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, that completes the roll.
Thank you, Michael. Next item is pledge allegiance to the flag. If you all rise, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda.
Romano, adopt the agenda.
Chair, if you could ask everybody to mute, I can't hear you.
Thank you. Michelle, I think that's coming from you. Just a guess. Could you please mute? Thank you. We have a motion by Romano. Did I hear a second?
Matuzik, support.
Motion by Romano, supported by Commissioner Matuzak to adopt the agenda. All in favor, please vote.
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Michael. Next item is approval of meeting minutes dated February 3rd, 2021. Motion, please.
Moved by Kleinfeld.
Second,
Support by Wallace.
Support Sabatini.
I have a motion by Commissioner Kleinfeld, and I think the next I heard was Commissioner Zinner. Any discussion on the meeting minutes? Hearing none, please vote.
Chair, this is Commissioner Sabatini. The voting is not coming up on my system for some reason. So I'm a yes.
Thank you.
With Commissioner Sabatini's vote, that motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Next item is public participation. This is our first of 2 public participation. It's the first opportunity is for those who wish to speak, maximum of 5 minutes on an item which is on today's agenda. Second opportunity for public participation is for those who wish to speak on issues other than those on today's agenda. For those planning to speak during public participation, please be advised according to Rule 2021 of the adopted board rules, personal attacks, coarse and derogatory language and cursing will not be tolerated. Individuals using such language will be removed from the meeting. Also, those who call in by phone for public participation will be asked to speak first in an orderly fashion. Those who join virtually will be asked to type their names into the Google chat box. Those names will then be called in order in which they are received. Anyone from the public wish to be heard on agenda items only? Staff, do we have anybody in the chat box?
Chair, there is no name in the chat box for public.
Thank you. Going once, twice. Public participation on agenda items is closed. Next item is appointment interviews. First, let me say that this is discussion. All of those that applied for the Community Mental Health Board, my first order of business is to thank all those that have applied and give a little background on why we're doing this today. In 2019, via Resolution R19-2838, the board adopted procedures for making appointments to Macomb County boards, commissions, and committees. This process includes an interview opportunity for those seeking appointment and also lists expectations once appointed. All candidates who submitted applications for appointment to the Community Mental Health Board received an invitation to today's interview opportunity and a copy of the adopted procedures prior to the meeting. Each candidate's name will be announced, and at present, they will have 3 minutes to provide a brief introduction, state why they are seeking the appointment, their goals as selected, and any other relevant information the commission needs to know. Commissioners may indicate in our system if they wish to be recognized to ask candidates any direct questions. Today's interviews are for receive and file, and we expect to thoroughly consider all submissions and make the appointments at the full board meeting to be held on March 18th. State law requires that the CMH board be made up of certain designations. Some of these designation includes individuals with firsthand service experience and family members. Our CMH executive director has reviewed the requirements, and it has indicated that one of the appointments we will be making is to fulfill a family member designation. So with that, we are looking at 1 vacancy, partial term to begin April 1st, 2021 and expire on March 31st, 2023, and 4 vacancies, 3 terms to begin April 1st, 2021 and expire on March 31st, 2024. So unless there is any question by board members, we will start the interview process with Donna. And it indicates Donna is attending, and I did hear her name. So Donna, if you're there, please unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
And Chair Hall, this is Michael. I'll just take this as an opportunity to remind speakers to use *6 if they're on the phone to unmute themselves.
Thank you.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman Hall and distinguished commissioners, for this opportunity to interview. The application I submitted contains my qualifications and background, so I'm not going to review the information included. I know you have either already reviewed the information contained in it, or you will be reviewing it before making a final decision. Since I completed my application, I was appointed to the Michigan Municipal Services Authority Board and Executive Committee by Governor Whitmer. My application on that board expires at the pleasure of the governor, and my appointment on the executive board expires in September of 2021. I would like to add that to my application. I did want to take just a few moments to express my strong support and belief in community mental health services. I believe these are vital supports for families who have nowhere else to turn. I have personally seen lives change, futures created, and hopes reborn due to CMH services. It is because of my 25 years of service in Macomb County Community Mental Health as a therapist and to the people we serve that I feel so strongly that I would be an asset on this board. I also am very committed to public service. I've been a public servant for most of my adult life, and since I retired, I have really missed it terribly. I am anxious to get back in. If appointed, I will spend every day of my appointment living up to your expectations. I want to thank you for this opportunity to interview for this important appointment. If you have any questions for me, I will be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. I don't see any speakers. Oh, Commissioner Van Sickle. Don, did you wish to ask a question? Yep.
Thank you, Chair. Just not specifically of this speaker, but since you did announce that one of the appointments is required to have a family member, I would ask that the various candidates tell us during their interview whether they have a family member or not, so we can identify the candidates who would qualify for that particular one appointment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and that's an excellent point. I see no other speakers, so Donna, I want to thank you for attending today and applying.
Thank you so much.
Next, we had Donald Nagy, but he has withdrawn due to time constraints. So the next would be Commissioner Wallace.
Yes. So thank you, board. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak. And thank you, everyone that again, applied to be on the Community Mental Health Board. I think this is awesome to see the amount of names on here because it's definitely needed. I do not have a family member, so I'm not that one applicant. However, I have a passion for this. I feel like growing up in my community, it was a stigmatism to seek mental help for mental health issues. It was not one that was pushed or encouraged. And I think that now is the time that it needs to change. The District 9 has a variety of people that are looking for help, seeking help, but don't know where to go. And even though you may say, well, it's right there in front of you, a lot of things are right there in front of us, but they don't know the direction to take or who to ask. Again, when you go to family members, they're saying, why take it outside of the home? Why take it outside of this house? Why, tell someone else your business? And a lot of times, because the issue is within your house, a lot of times the issue is within your family. So it's kind of stopped right there. And then even with kids, parents don't know where to go or who to turn to. So I feel like though I am in a position as a commissioner to help with a broad range of things, being on this committee is something very specific that I can help with and feel pretty determined to do so. So that is all I had to say. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Commissioner Wallace. I don't see any questions, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next individual is Danelle Hicks. It said would be attending. Is Danelle on? It's *6 to unmute. Okay, we will come back to that. Next one is Misty Delgado. Is Misty here?
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Hi, it's
all
Misty
yours,
Delgado. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I have received in the past requests to apply to the board, and this is my first time doing that. I am in business for myself. I have a geriatric care management business, and but we don't use that term anymore because people of all ages need care management services. And so one of the qualifications stated is, you know, having knowledge and understanding. I've lived in Macomb County all my life, and I'm not a youngin' anymore, but I've had my business for 18 years. And so I have a pretty thorough knowledge of, you know, helping people find resources, what resources are available in our community. So this would, and I have a lot of people that call me looking for information. So for me, this is would be a position to kind of help at a higher level in, you know, giving my experiences or education or knowledge for what is happening in, you know, more directly in the field environment. So I'm hoping that you will consider me for that position. I do not have a family member that gets community mental health services.
Thank you, Misty. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Chair. I might be looking right past it. I was trying to figure out which one has the requirement. Is it the partial, or is it one of the 4 full term meets the requirement and either must be reaffirmed or somebody else who has a family member must be reaffirmed? And it might be here, but if it is, I'm looking right past it. Thank you.
Well, on my listing, it's got each candidate identified as seeking the partial term or the full-time term, but I don't have anybody listed as having a family member either. So I think Commissioner Van Sickle's question was most appropriate to dealing with that.
Right, and where you said there was one requirement, I'm not seeing where you saw that. Like I said, I might be looking right past it, but.
Chair, this is Patty. Would you allow me to provide some information?
Sure, please.
The state law, the mental health code, requires certain designations for the CMH board membership as a whole. So we had the executive director of CMH services review the board without the 5 positions that are up for reappointment or appointment. And it's determined that all of those 7 positions do meet the requirements for the board in totality, except we would need 1 more family member designation. So that's why of these 5 positions that you will consider to appoint, 1 would need to be a family member. Could be more, but at least 1.
Okay, and it's any one of them. That's what I was asking. Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Patty. And thank you, Misty. Our next candidate is Lucia DeCiccio.
Hello, my name's Lucia DeCiccio. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. And I know you had a chance to either review my application now or you will be reviewing it, so I won't go through all of that again. I was very interested to apply for this because I do believe that mental health is a serious concern for our community, especially given 2020 and how the pandemic has affected so many people. I think it's important to shed more light on it and to give people the resources. And like someone else had already said, you know, sometimes it's right in front of us, but we don't know. So I think the work that this board does is very important. And if selected, I hope to continue to shed that light on mental health issues and to provide that information to the community. Thank you all for allowing me the time to speak. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, and thank you for applying. I don't see any questions, so you're getting off pretty easy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Hillary Dubé.
Hello. Yes, so my name is Hillary Dubé, and I am a wife and a mother. I do not have a member of my family who is currently receiving services through CMH. I currently serve as the president of L'Anse Creuse Public Schools, the Board of Education. It is that facet or that arena that I come before CMH in regards to participating on this board. I've been able to service over 10,000 students throughout various areas of Macomb County, and I'm pretty knowledgeable in regards to fiscal responsibility. Our board, we do tackle a $111 million budget. I do understand how you have to make hard decisions in regards to finance and how that finance is allocated to help benefit those who need it the most. I understand the importance of making tough decisions when it comes to finance and exactly how you can weigh one thing over the other when you really want both. I firmly believe in living within our means. That is something we pride ourselves on in L'Anse Creuse. I do have a child with special needs. I have a son who has autism, so I understand also the aspects of the family side of mental health and the services that can be provided. I know that CMH has done a lot in regards to respite care and providing respite care to families with individuals with needs and disabilities, and how that's been a lifesaver for quite a few families as they continue to face the challenges of having a family member with special needs. Also, back to the schooling and students, it's really been impactful to see how mental health affects our kids and how it not only affects them individually, but their families as a whole. For me personally, I've seen the successes that happen when mental health is taken into account and when people actually invest in that and succeed. And unfortunately, I've seen the flip side of when students and their families kind of slip behind because they don't consider mental health as something that's important. So in regards to goals and objectives, I don't necessarily come to the board with any hidden agenda or plan or anything that I would like to accomplish. I would just like to provide my insight and perspective and look at ways that I can assist or support in any way. I do think that my experience in the school system does present a certain caveat and a certain way in which to look at mental health from a different perspective. I think COVID has been something that we definitely need to take into consideration as we move forward. I know that in L'Anse Creuse, we've been face-to-face since the beginning of September, but I also know that my fellow school districts in Macomb County have not, and their students have suffered. We've suffered tremendously with isolation amongst our population, and unfortunately, even some deaths. So I think as we move forward, the impact that COVID has had on mental health for our kids, as well as their families, is something that we need to be mindful of. Having been a leader in the foregrounds in regards to education, I look forward to bringing that mindset towards mental health. If anybody has any questions for me, I'm definitely happy to answer.
Thank you, Hillary. Commissioner Kleinfeld, did you wish to speak?
No, sir.
Okay, that must have been an old request. I see Commissioner Kraft has made it back from Lansing, and he's next.
Thanks,
Commissioner
Commissioner.
Kraft.
For the purposes of roll call, Commissioner Phil Kraft attending remotely from Chesterfield Township, Macomb County, Michigan. Now Mike's good. All right, Hillary. Quick question for you, just a technical question. I was looking over your application. And near the end, it talks about if you're reappointed, you know, if you are a reappointment, yes or no, and then asks about the meetings that you've attended. That section is just for reappointments, and you have numbers in there as attending meetings. What meetings are those? Just out of curiosity.
I thought it was my meetings. Like if I thought I was more worried about scheduling conflicts because I don't like to commit to something unless I know I can have it room for it on my schedule. So I thought it meant like my attendance at my meetings. I apologize. I completely read that differently.
That's okay. Thank you, Hillary. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hillary. And that's Commissioner Kraft. He's the only one that caught that. I just want you to know. So thank you very much.
I'm not surprised at all. Not surprised at all.
Thank you. Next on the list is Brianna Jacob. Brianna?
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for taking the opportunity to speak with me today. I know that we have a lot of candidates with a lot of varied backgrounds. I do come into this application process with a pretty lengthy behavioral health background. I've been in healthcare for about 16 years. I've been in behavioral healthcare specifically for the past 9. And a very staunch behavioral health advocate. While I do not have anybody in my family that's currently receiving CMH services, I do have family members with substance abuse and mental health issues that we have dealt with previously. In addition to that, why I applied to this role is really that not only do I work in the field of behavioral health, I've been advocating and joining on multiple levels. I'm currently, since my application, have been appointed to the MDHHS's Behavioral Health Advisory Council, and I'm also on the Friends of Crossroads Cobalt Foundation in Macomb County. So work with a lot of groups, do a lot of public service as it relates to behavioral health and the community here in our Macomb County area. I also want to just, I guess, address that this is something I am very passionate about. I know some of you probably, in reviewing my application, may have had questions or concerns related to my employer, who has potentially not always been shed in the best light. We have worked really hard over the past few years to overcome that and make some improvements there and to become a very active member in the community and in the behavioral health advocacy platform as well. So I will address any and all questions, but behavioral health is kind of my baby, and I welcome the opportunity to work on it and at a level that's a little bit closer to home than I'm used to.
Thank you. I don't see any speakers, so thank you very much for your application. Next is Mark. Are you with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. The floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Mark Kilgore. I've been a member of the CMH Citizen Advisory Council for several years now. And my main job is working with people with mental illness and substance use disorders. So I've been doing advocacy work around that almost 10 years now. And I really believe that all the residents of Macomb County should have access to mental health services and understand how to navigate the system. I think that's the hard part, is learning how to navigate the system and reducing the stigma around mental illness and substance use disorder. You know, there's so much stigma involved in it that we really need people to give a voice to feel that the people that feel they don't have a voice. So I just want to thank you for giving me the time today. A little nervous. I don't know why. I know Mr. Howe and you know, but it still makes me nervous. It's been a pretty crazy day today. So with that, I'm open to any questions you may have for me, and thank you.
No need to be nervous, Mark. Are there any questions for Mark? Seeing none. I do see Commissioner Kraft. Your floor.
Let's lighten the mood a little bit. I've seen Mark sit in front of a couple different pieces of artwork back there. Just wondering if he could tell us what they are, because they are fantastic.
Yes, this is actually artwork that I do in collaboration with people in recovery from substance use disorders and the Detroit Institute of Arts. We actually created this piece of art just for our recovery community center. And what's cool about it is it's big sheets of vinyl that were painted different colors and textures. And then we cut them into small pieces to create these pictures. So I do ongoing work with the DIA bi-monthly, and we create different pieces of art, different medias. Thank you for noticing that. That's why I sit here, because I love this. And it's actually about 20 feet long.
Thank you, Mark. It's really neat. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And thank you, Mark, for all that you do.
You're welcome. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak today.
Next on the list is Commissioner Kraft. He may not have been in attendance when I announced you only get 3 minutes, Phil. So it's your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll keep it short and sweet. So I thank you for allowing me to interview for an appointment. Been on the Community Mental Health Board since 2017. A few months after I was elected as a county commissioner, we had a commissioner that stepped down, and I stepped up to the spot. And since then, we've gone through quite a bit as a board. When I first started, we were making cuts. We were cutting services. We had a slew of budget issues, and now I can say we are the exact opposite right now. We are doing pretty well. We are offering those services again that we cut, which one of the hardest parts of being a board member was when we were making the cuts and having the family members and those folks come in whose services we did cut. We were at meetings for hours and hours and we were all crying, we were all in tears, and it was awful. And I'd never want to go through that again. So hopefully we continue on this path that we're on right now. I actually have a cousin that gets services in St. Clair County, which means I don't qualify for the person getting services in Macomb. But, my cousin she's about 20 years older than I am. So she's been a part of my life, my whole life. And seeing what, she's gone through and seeing what my aunt and uncle have gone through to get her everything that she needs just kind of inspired me to do this. And seeing her, she actually goes to work. She has a job. And that kind of sparked me to work with our new CEO, Dave Pankatai, on some supportive employment initiatives. We just started to get that going. We started to place a few people, and then COVID hit. So hopefully we can get that back going to where we would like it to be once everything settles down again. And with that, if anybody has any questions, please feel free. I sit on the Recipient Rights Committee, where folks that we serve, if they have complaints about the service they're getting, we're kind of an advisory board to that, where we can repeal the findings and things like that. I was also part of the interview process when we were looking for a new CEO, which was challenging. And I tell our CEO to this day, I'm the only one that voted no for him. And I regret that decision every day because he's done a fantastic job ever since. He's proved me wrong. And I was also a member of the authority task force, which spent a year looking at all the ins and outs of becoming an authority as opposed to what we are now as kind of a hybrid department of the county. So if anybody has any questions, you know where to find me, or you can ask me right now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, Phil. And personally, I want to thank you for your experience, leadership, and dedication to CMH and how you educated all of us on what the needs, wants, and what had to take there in order to turn it around. So thank you for that. And you're getting off the hook. I don't see any questions for you at all. So once again, thanks, Phil. Next item is Teresa McGarity. Teresa? Is it *6?
Good afternoon.
There you are.
Okay,
Lord,
thank you.
Where's yours, Teresa?
Okay, I'm Teresa. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, as well as our county commissioners. I come to you for a seat, as you know, for Macomb County Mental Health Board with a lot of background that I did not put on the application. So I want to share that with you. Some I have. As an ambassador for Macomb County Community Action Center, which I was chosen by the supervisors, department heads, and directors. I have been an ambassador for Macomb Community Action Center now for several years. I am also State of Michigan Medicare and Medicaid certified. I am also a resource specialist for 14 years for Macomb County. And that covers the county which brought me to the seat of currently working with my city that I reside in, which is in Mount Clemens, being a resource advocate for those that are on disability as well as our senior population. I also serve with the seat from the city of Mount Clemens as the safety committee member. And so what I do basically is resources that are needed to assist people in our community, not just my city that I live in, but again, the entire county. And I still do that, from being homeless to being in a house, to not letting the people that are in mental health challenges to be put in jail. That's not the spot for them. To seek that they can get housing or some type of assistance so they can feel independent, or receive assistance from the state with me applying for them as well. I do not have any family members currently that receive mental health from Macomb County Mental Health, but I still work closely with Macomb County Mental Health Department staff with calls that come through, with aiding them with resources for the people that come for that help. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me at this point. That's just a brief synopsis of what Teresa McGeary does for the community.
Thank you, and thank you for all you do. I don't see any speakers, so thank you for applying.
Thank you.
Next is Brandon McCuya. Brandon?
Yes, hello.
Did I butcher that last name?
Little bit. It's Makula, but it was close.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
I'd like to thank the board today for considering me for this spot. It's all in my application, my background, but I'd like to go over it just a little bit. I am a veteran of the U.S. Navy. I was a hospital corpsman, which for those unfamiliar with the role is kind of like a medic, but we like to say we're better. And after the Navy, I got out. I did a lot of I did security work, but then I rejoined into the medical field, and I served as an ER medic. I served as a firefighter EMT, and right now I'm actively working in the mental health field. I feel like that experience makes me uniquely qualified for this position. I believe the on-ground experience is something that we really need, because mental health is a passion for me. I mean, I see it in my current role, serving at Harbor Oaks and Chesterfield Township. I serve as a milieu coordinator, which we're responsible for de-escalation and, taking care, making sure the milieu is safe for the residents and staff. And it's sad to see the revolving door that we currently have in the mental health field and the stigma that comes along with mental health services. That is something that would very much like to change and contribute to. That it's public service has been a passion for mine for my entire adult life, and that's all I've ever known and all I've ever done. And like I said, I truly believe that we need to remove that stigma, and we need to make mental health services more accessible, because I've seen it I've seen the proper health turn lives around. I also am contingent with Havenwick Hospital's Residential Treatment Center, which services adolescent boys 10 to 19 who basically have committed some kind of sexual offense. Those children would normally end up in the juvenile, sector, and then eventually into prison. But this residential program, for example, gives them the opportunity to get treatment and to eventually reintegrate into society. And we have a very high success rate with that. I believe it's right now actually currently about 99% success rate with not reoffending. So it's something I've been proud to take part of too. And I'd like to bring that on the ground experience that I do every day to this board to help better the the delivering and the quality of the service in Macomb County. And if you have any, I do not have a family member either that's receiving services. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brandon, thanks for applying. Quick question for you. You got a couple things on your application in terms of jobs and things like that. So are you currently full-time at Harbor Oaks and you're also a firefighter, like part-time, or is it all Harbor Oaks, or could you clarify that a little bit for me?
Yeah, I'm currently full-time at Harbor Oaks. I'm contingent at Havenwick Hospital. I'm not a firefighter EMT right now. I decided to go back into the mental services field. So right now, like I said, I'm contingent with the residential treatment center at Havenwick Hospital, which is located in Auburn Hills, and then I work full-time as a milieu coordinator with Harbor Oaks.
Gotcha. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Brandon, thank you. And more importantly, thank you for your service to our country. No further. Next item is Brian Nagovian. Brian, did you make it back from getting your shot? He was getting his correction. There he is.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Brian Nagovian. First off, I want to commend the Macomb County mental health, not the mental health, but the health department on how they do COVID-19. Now, right now, I'm sitting in the waiting tent. I just received my first shot, and it's been fantastic and well run. I'm really impressed with that. And just to go on to mental health stuff, I'm impressed with our mental health board and how our leadership and our staff works with our consumers. They do a fantastic job. Our staff cares for the consumers above anything else. And like Commissioner Kraft mentioned, there's been a lot of cuts in a few years. There's been a lot of good things. There's been a lot of hard times to do, but this thing's coming around the right way now. I've been on the board since 2006, and I would continue to love to continue to serve. And pretty much that's it.
Thank you, Brian.
If anybody's got any questions for me.
I don't see any questions, but thank you, and hope you're out of the tent pretty soon. That is really one professionally run process. I received my injection, my first last Monday, and I'm telling you, they ought to be running the country, not just that injection center. So thank you, Brian.
I'll tell you what, for coming in and sitting down, the longest time I've been sitting here for 15 minutes. I mean, they had me done in 10 minutes. It's well run. You guys have a good afternoon. Stay safe.
Next applicant is Lori Phillips. Lori?
Hello. Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Well, my name is Lori Phillips. I reside in Macomb Township. As a mother of a recipient of our services, I've had the honor to serve on the Macomb County Community Mental Health Board for the last 3 years. I originally joined the board because I was concerned with what was the cutting of the services to families, and I knew I needed to be part of that solution to a problem. It was not just for my son being affected. It was not just my family. It was my friends who had children and adults with behavioral and medical needs. We were losing supports that helped keep our children at home and to keep them with us and our families safe. Prior to being on the board, I had attended multiple meetings for 2 years and would question what was going on. At this point, I'd like to read our mission statement that we have, because this is what I truly have the belief in, and that is guided by the values, the strengths, and informed choices of the people we serve. provide quality services which promote recovery, community participation, self-sufficiency, and independence. I felt that at one time, Macomb County Community Mental Health was not following through on their mission, and the recipients of our services were paying the price. As my son, who is autistic, cerebral palsy, and has hydrocephalus, has been a person served for over 25 years, I am well informed on the services entitled to persons served in Macomb County. I am his voice, and I am the voice of those who we serve. The last 3 years have been remarkable learning experience for me. Is there somebody else in the back? Okay.
Yeah, Lori, could
I
you?
have brought to the.
Lori, give me 1 second, please. Brian, I believe it's
Yes?
your phone that's not muted. Brian. Well, I tried, Lori. Go ahead. There he is.
Okay. Okay. I have brought to the board a balance as a parent, and I am confident that community mental health is on the right path with the open door communication with the board and the community we serve. I have seen Macomb County Community Health go from cutting services and programs to becoming a leader in our state. I have been able to work with the Tri-County area by attending meetings and attend conferences to share information and learn. I serve on the Community Mental Health Association of Michigan, the Person Served Advisory Committee, that looks at what is being done and what improvements are needed to support the people we serve in our community. I am proud to have been part of the great progress that continues today at Macomb County Community Mental Health, and I am asking for reappointment to continue what is now my passion, a commitment for people who receive services and who will need us in the future. I'm also a retired from Macomb Intermediate School bus driver after 20 years as a bus driver. Up until COVID, I also worked the last 8 years as a paraprofessional in the classroom because my passion is people with all disabilities. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, and thank you to all of you for taking me into consideration to continue my journey with Macomb County Community Mental Health.
Thank you, Lori. We do have a question, Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you. Lori, you indicated that the reason you decided to try to get on the board in the first place was because of all the cuts that you saw taking place. And I know that part of that, there were some administrative decisions that I think cost Macomb County prior to the current administration, but there was also a realignment of where the money went within the state, funneling it out of Macomb County into more rural areas. So my question for you is, I get the importance of providing the services, but we still have a pretty conservative legislature, both in the House and the Senate. If the money is cut and the money isn't there to provide those services, other than just advocating that we spend the money that we don't have, how do you go about finding solutions for that?
Well, if we don't, I mean, I've been involved now for 3 years, which 3 years ago, there was a huge problem with Macomb County Community Mental Health when I came in. Again, I believe that our new CEO is phenomenal. As of right now, the next couple of years does look promising from what we are hearing. I wish I could tell you there won't be a problem again. I just know that for me, having a son and, you know, when your CLS services and respite services are cut, or, you know, some of the behaviors and things that have come out in people who I know, because most of my friends and associates, all of us, pretty much 80% have autistic children, or adults. So is there a solution? I guess just being able to work through what we already have worked through from 3 years ago to present day today and where we stand. And I mean, if the state comes back and says that there's going to be more cutbacks or funding's going in a different direction again, I think those that, you know, things are going to be looked at. And
I think,
I would just like to.
let me rephrase this to make it a little bit easier for you to answer. It's a tough question.
It is.
If the state does continue to cut in this area, would you be able to make cuts?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. I mean, we'll do what we have to do. I mean, we do what we have to do. I feel that I am the voice for our people that are on the DD population, on the emotionally impaired population. And yes, if we've made the cuts in the past, it was done. And there may be cuts again in the future. Absolutely. But as a parent, that's where I
mean, you don't have to go on. I think you've made yourself clear. And I will tell you that I think that given your position with your child, I think you also make a great asset advocating for us in Lansing as well. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lori.
Okay, we're all done. Thank you again for listening.
Thank you for applying again. Next is Anthony Piglia. I know I butchered that one. Anthony, are you here? *6 if you are.
He's on the video, so he has to unmute.
Anthony, you have to unmute. I think he's having technical difficulties, which I totally understand. I see that he's on. Anthony? Okay, we'll come back to that one. Let's move on to Kim. I'm even going to attempt it. Kim Denara? Kim? Can anybody tell if she's on or not? That was indicated she was going to be attending. Okay, here's what I'm going to attempt to do. I want to thank all the applicants and those that are on our list that did not get a chance to be heard due to technical difficulties.
Chair?
Yes?
I'm sorry. I saw that Anthony was unmuted for a second.
Microphone is on
There
right
he
now.
is.
There he
He's
is.
on.
There he is. There he is.
They got me.
Okay,
Thanks, Dave.
Anthony, welcome.
Hey, the technical difficulty is the size of my thumb. I'm sorry about that.
Listen, we've all been through that, Anthony, so go ahead.
I want to tell you how good Dave Pankatai is. He just called me on my telephone and told me what to do, and here we are. That guy fixes big thumbs as good as he does finances. Anyway, I want to apologize. I'm going to keep my speech a little bit shorter because the last speaker, Lori Phillips, stole about 75% of what I wanted to say. Because I, too, am the father of a family member. We've been using community mental health services for nearly 30 years. I have a 51-year-old son with autism. And we have, over the years, arranged a very fine living arrangement for Ron, which is kind of envied by several other parents that invented right along same lines, because we basically had a roadmap for them. Anyway, I'd like to fulfill the requirement for another family member on this board. Number two, all of you BOC members see the many groups that I have attended over time, mostly involved in autism, and I've been studying it for nearly 45 years. I'm not perfect at it, but I can add to this board comments on what I think will work or not work in the field of autism, which is a huge part of our CMH budget right now. The other thing I can tell you, I have a broad general knowledge of the Medicaid system. I know what floats their boat, let's put it that way, and what to do and what not to do. I can also tell you a very strong, I am a strong supporter of what's called the least restrictive environment. Now, odds are some of you have not heard what that really is, but it is a United States government law underneath the Americans with Disabilities Act that boils down about 26 pages down to this following statement. It's all about removing barriers to participating in the mainstream of American life. And a small example of that might be a ramp for a wheelchair, or an opening in a door for a wheelchair. That's a small, easy example for the physical side. But for the mental side, it could be a staff member. Staff member has to be considered equal to a tool. And right now, the biggest fight we've got is to get staff members to get paid more. And we are accomplishing something. We got a $2.25 approval from the state. But anyway, to cut that long story short, I am very supportive of things that getting rid of barriers to the people that are disabled. And I have a personal goal, and I think the current board knows that I'm on this path, is to keep our legislators informed on what our needs are. Because among the things that our legislators have, including roads and jails and drainage departments and water systems and those other things, there's like 13 different departments. Ours is right there on the bottom as a priority. So my wish is to be sure that they understand what the needs of the disabled are. And of course, we're getting quite a lot of visibility these days because we CMH may be called upon to serve inmates, because a huge percentage of the inmates would be better served in mental treatment facilities rather than a jail. And the other thing I can tell you is that I will always support and even invent sustainable mechanisms to keep disabled people in the health services. And that doesn't just apply to my own son, who is 51 years old. And we have found a good path for him. I'd love to share that with other people. And be sure, and Veronica, you asked the question for Lori. If you would please repeat that question, what would I do if there was a cutback? Or I'll throw at you what my idea is without the question.
I'll repeat it, but I have to say, thank God this is your short version.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm a man of few words, right? What I have, I am focusing on the Americans with Disabilities Act. And when the United States government says that we should do things and they don't give us money for it, they need to pay for requirements that they put upon us. And one of those requirements is staff people. So you can bet that on behalf of Macomb County and maybe the rest of the United States, I'm going to look for a hook that's in that Americans with Disability Act and get the U.S. government to support us stronger. That's the end of my speech. I'll take questions.
Thank you, Anthony. We have Commissioner Farrington with a question. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Anthony, thank you for your service. Not really a question, but I noticed on your application 100% attendance. And I I didn't see that with anyone else. I really appreciate your commitment to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm dependable that way.
Thank you, Commissioner. It looks like Commissioner Kleinfeld has found her question.
I don't have a question, Chair. I just wanted to say I really like that answer about the Americans with Disabilities Act. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And thank you, Anthony, for your application. I want to thank all that have submitted applications and use this as an
Mr. Chair, Kim just chimed in saying she's here.
Great. Kim, floor is yours.
No,
yeah, the message said that neither her audio or video were working.
Oh.
So I don't know quite how we can invite her in.
She just wanted us to know that she's here.
Well, that's good to know. We have everybody's resume. Is there anybody else on the list that did not have an opportunity to speak that has now joined the meeting?
Yeah, Hicks was the only other one that did not speak. I don't know if she is here or not.
That's correct. Okay, we have everybody's resume. I want to thank everybody again for the applications. Do remind board members we will be making the appointments at the full board meeting to be held on March 18th. So for everybody. Let's move on to item 7. This is an update on the Ethics Board of Procedures by Dr. Donald Ambroni, Ethics Chair, and John Chepka, Corporate Counsel. I will indicate this will be discussion only for future, referring to a full board. So with that, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we receive and file this report.
Motion
Support by Wallace.
Aye.
Supported by
Romano.
Too late, Joe. With that, I will turn it over to Chairman Brown. If you want to make a statement on this.
Sure. This is a remake of a procedure of the ethics board, how people to proceed following ethics complaints. The Karen Spranger episode that we went through was probably the biggest case for use of the ethics policy and the ethics board, trying to process the many complaints that were coming in to the ethics board for a variety of issues. It came to light that board really didn't have proper procedures set up in place to conduct the thing from start to finish. And with that, our corporation counsel, Mr. Shapka, reviewed that and went through and basically rewrote most of the guidelines because the prior ones were so vague and in need of repair that they are needed rewriting. And so what he's done is before us today for our review and counsel. And without further ado, Mr. Shapka could take it over and summarize his view of what he saw when he looked at it, what he did, and what we suggest we do in the future.
Thank you, Chair. Before we do that, I have 2 speakers that have questions. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you. Actually, Chair Brown just answered one of them because we didn't have highlighted changes from the last one. But if this is a complete rewrite, then there would be no reason to do highlights and changes. We should just look at this as a whole new one. I did notice a lot of it. I thought was very well done. So I'll give a hats off to Shapka for that. I do have a couple of questions that I want to challenge him on. The first is,
well, how about we let him speak before you challenge?
That's fine with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sabatini.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just wait for my comments after John speaks.
Thank you.
As well.
John, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. First, I think this is my first opportunity to speak to the board during this calendar year. I'd like to welcome all the returning commissioners back to work, and I'd like to welcome all the new commissioners. What you have before you are proposed rules of procedure. The rules of procedure are required to sync to the current ordinance. Macomb issued the first ethics ordinance soon after it became a charter county. There was a set of procedural rules that went with that ordinance. The ordinance was completely rewritten in 2017, and the rules of procedure were not rewritten. The existing rules of procedure are completely inadequate. They're inadequate to give guidance to the ethics board. They're inadequate to give notice to respondents and complainants as to how the process works. They really are at best vague. And so I took it upon myself back in, I believe it was December. I was quarantined after having close contact with a COVID positive. Had a few days of time on my hands. So I simply started from scratch. The proposed rules are not a rewrite or an amendment of the old rules. In fact, the old rules were not even consulted. The proposed rules track the current ordinance. The current ordinance was actually used as a roadmap for how these rules ought to be presented. And the rules themselves have two major thrusts to them. The first is precise guidance for the ethics board. When you receive a complaint, what do you do? What do you do after that? And what do you do next? The old rules offered no guidance whatsoever. These rules might be criticized for being a little bit molecular in their detail, but it answers every question that the board may have. They're also fairly written in plain English, not completely. I can't completely do plain English, but they also give good guidance to those who might want to file a complaint and those who have to respond to a complaint. What will be expected of them? How does this all work? The best part of these rules, and I've told the ethics board this, the best part of the rules are the 3 appendices that I included. And the appendices are just roadmaps for the rest of those rules. The first is the summary of the timing considerations. There are a lot of deadlines and response periods within those rules. Appendix A is just a summary of those timing provisions, sort of a quick reference checklist. Appendix 2 is a hearing script. And believe it or not, this is actually taken out of the United States Army's Manual for Court Martial, something that I practiced for 9 years. Every guilty plea in an Army court had a script, and every line in that script was dictated by an appellate case that said somebody made a mistake. If you followed the script, no mistakes were made, and your guilty plea proceeding, the integrity was guarded. This gives the board in a hearing a starting point and a roadmap of what is first, what comes second, what comes after that, and what comes next. It also lends uniformity to every hearing. Every hearing should progress the same way. A lot of this script is literally advice of rights to the respondent and advice of rights to the complainant. The third appendix is a flow chart, and I have to brag a little bit. I actually spent a couple of hours learning how to make those little arrows. Didn't think I had it in me, but I figured it out. The flow chart is a
John, we lost you.
Sorry, I have big thumbs also. I accidentally hit my keyboard. The flow chart is, I think, probably the best part of the entire rule set. It tells the board exactly what to do and what their options are. You can read the rules, and all these options are embodied within those rules, but this is a quick reference for them. A complaint comes in. It's first reviewed for jurisdiction. The board has to have jurisdiction over the person, the respondent, and over the subject matter. If I file a complaint that says my next door neighbor said bad words to my dog, that's not an ethics complaint. Saying bad words to my dog is not a violation of the ethics ordinance, and my neighbor is not subject to our rules here because he's not a county employee. So it gets dismissed. Every court, both state and federal, have precisely this procedure built into them. A complaint is filed, the defense says this isn't even a complaint, and the court has an opportunity to dismiss it right there. If it does state a claim which is recognized under the ordinance and states or is pertinent to a county employee, then we go on the investigation phase. There's a initial review for probable cause. There's the investigation continues if probable cause is present. There's eventually you get to a hearing. At the hearing, there will be evidence, and a lot of these rules literally are written to guarantee fundamental due process for the respondent. The ordinance provides for financial penalties. Though that's a property interest. If I can be fined up to $500, that is a property interest inuring to me under the Constitution, and I get due process. The government can only deprive me of my property with due process of law. And the second half of these rules are all of the guarantees of fundamental due process. A respondent has a right to know what the complaint is, what the evidence is against them. They have a right to be heard. They have a right to cross-examine witnesses against them, present evidence, both exculpatory and impeachment evidence. These rules, as I said, they sync 100% with the current ordinance, and they give the Ethics Board that guidepost, those guidelines that they very desperately need, and also serve the respondents and the complainants with clear guidance as to what's expected of them and how the process progresses forward. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Before we get to questions, is Don on the call as well? You know, John?
Yes, I am, Commissioner.
Yes.
Hello? Is
Yes,
there
Commissioner.
anything you'd like to add, John? Welcome.
Well, first and foremost, Commissioner Hall and fellow commissioners, I'd like to thank Corporation Counsel John Chapka for his uncanny assistance to the Macomb County Ethics Board. As Chairman Brown previously indicated, we had significant difficulties in carrying out our duties and responsibilities on the Ethics Board and the hearings relative to the former county clerk and also the former county drain commissioner. Two very prominent cases that came before the Ethics Board. And most of those issues, as Mr. Shopka has indicated, were really due process issues that we really wrestled with the original rules of procedures that were in accordance somewhat with the first ethics ordinance, which was in 2011. So as a consequence of a number of different ethics board complaints, it was more than necessary to update and to amend those rules of procedures that were originally adopted by the Board of Commissioners back in 2012 to be fully aligned with the two subsequent ordinances that came into place by the Board of Commissioners, and the most recent being that of 2019. We are most appreciative of his assistance to develop the rules and procedures as he so eloquently outlined. And it's a great benefit to not only the Ethics Board, but more importantly to the citizens of Macomb County. The other thing that I'd like to indicate while I have a moment here, if I could, the Ethics Board has felt very strongly about amending and updating the rules and procedures for obvious reasons. And secondly, the Ethics Board feels very strongly too that it's important for all public servants, those being elected as county officials, appointed officials, and general county employees, to know what the ethics ordinance is that's been adopted by the Board of Commissioners. So in turn, we have worked very closely with Mr. McKinnon, Director of Human Resources and Labor Relations, to develop an online training program that we hope will come into effect in the relatively near future. It's a process where, due to COVID, it's also helped to promote this, to develop the online curriculum so that all persons who are employed by the county, as well as elected to county positions, are fully aware of what the ethics ordinance is, so as to prevent any unethical behavior. And if in fact there is any kind of unethical behavior, they have an indication of what to expect, that the Ethics Board is bound to not only enforce the ethics ordinance as advocated and adopted by the Board of Commissioners, but also to follow rules of procedures that are due process, that everyone's rights are fully implemented. So in any event, on behalf of the Ethics Board, I'd like to personally thank Mr. Shapka for his outstanding legal assistance in developing this the proposed rules of procedures for the Board of Commissioners to hopefully act upon in a positive manner. It's long overdue, and we really appreciate the assistance. Thank you, sir.
Don, I would also like to take the opportunity before we move into questions to thank you for your chairmanship and leadership, as well as John and Andrew McKinnon and the time that you put into this very serious issue. So with that, Veronica Kleinfeld, first question.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so John, sections 7E2 and 8D2 refer to that the identity of the complainant shall not be disclosed at that point. And then section 10E1, which is later in the process, indicates that the respondent has a right to receive a copy of the complaint. So 72, I think, is really before the board meets. But my question is, 8D2 is when the board has met and decided to summarily dismiss. Is there any problems with being in compliance with FOIA if the respondent cannot get a copy of the complaint if the ethics board is met in session to do these to summarily dismiss?
I had to find my cursor. I've got 4 screens open here. Well, to address your concern, 7E2 is fairly early in the process. This is just during the investigation. And I met with the ethics board. I think we had 3 meetings where we went back and forth precisely on the issue of when does the respondent get to know what's going on? And quite frankly, this was a policy kind of consideration. It's not a matter of law. When was the best time? It was decided that when the board decides there is jurisdiction, there is evidence to support the claim, there will be a hearing. At that point, due process dictates that the respondent know they get all of the evidence against them. Hearings are scheduled. So E2 is very, very early in the process. That's just during the investigation. When the board does their investigation and they decide there's just no evidence to support this claim. A complaint has been filed that the head of the finance department absconded with $100 million of county money and built a villa in France. The investigation reveals there's not $100 million missing. Steve Schmiegel doesn't speak French, and he has not built a villa. So there's no evidence. They should not have to go on to a hearing. So they have that power and authority to dismiss the claim summarily at that point. And E2 says the respondent may be notified. And that would be a case-by-case determination by the ethics board.
Right. My only concern really was 8D2. If you feel like we're on solid legal standing, then I'm going to accept that.
Oh, we're on solid legal standing.
That's all you had to say, John.
Okay. Well, this is sort of like my baby. I like to explain what it all means.
All right. And my next question is 7I3 and 9D refer to the ethics board being allowed to have the use of corporate counsel during their processes. 10A5 allows for them to have the use of corporate counsel as well as it gives them the use of being able to retain outside counsel. Should section 7 and 9 also have also list that they should be able to retain outside counsel? given the event that they may choose to, if the complaint were to come out of your office, or maybe the complaint were to come out of your boss's office or something like that, it's just a small thing. It would be the addition of 2 words in each of those sections. I was just wondering if you're okay with that.
I would be okay with that. And the provision for outside counsel, I think would be used rarely, and as you've identified, only where I'm the respondent, the complaint against me or one of my attorneys or one of my staff people here, or against the executive or even against the Board of Commissioners where there'd be a conflict of interest, because I serve both the executive and the Board of Commissioners.
And I wouldn't even have a problem if you spelled out in there when they can retain outside counsel. I don't have a problem with that. I just noticed that those 2 sections, and I can email to you if you want to zero in on them. I believe it's 7I3 and 9D where that does not refer to the independent counsel.
I'm taking notes as you speak, Commissioner. You don't have to email it.
And then it's 10A5 that does allow for them to retain outside counsel. All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
And in my intent, John, just so you understand, and for Veronica's benefit as well, at the end of the questioning, if anybody has questions or additional questions, I'm going to ask that we send them all to Patty or Crystal or both, so that it is John in one felt swoop. So with that,
and the last thing I'll say, Chair, is I'm looking forward to updates from you, John, on our pending litigation. Thank you.
Okay, we'll let that one sit, John. Don't answer that.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Sabatini.
Thank you, Chair. Hey, John, great to see you again.
Yeah, welcome back.
Thank you. Veronica answered actually a few of my questions. Now that, this is a brand new document from scratch. So obviously we're going to have some comments and thoughts and, possible revisions with this. So my question kind of goes back to the approval process for this. So I believe per your letter to Chair Brown that per charter we have 60 days from submission to either approve or reject this. So do we have the right to amend it, or is it simply an approval or rejection process for the board?
I think you have the right to amend. Like the ordinance is your ordinance, and these actually are your rules. They will be employed by the ethics board, however. So you do have the right to tweak and amend or rewrite or do whatever you want.
Okay. So basically you've provided us the landscape here. Now it's our determination what we want to do and how we want to make revisions to it or stamp our approval right on it. But I just wanted to get some clarity with that. So then do we have 60 days from when this was submitted to the board, or what is our timeline here with this, just so I got clarity?
Well, you have the 60 days, but the ethics board also has a pending complaint which was filed last week. So okay. I would hope you would not use the 60 days because the ethics board has to respond and start processing that complaint.
Okay. All right. I think that kind of addresses my questions right now. So I think I just need to dig into the actual document and, get all my thoughts. And then, as you said, Chair, provide them to our staff for submission back to John. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Joe. I think what we'll do is we'll put a time limitation 1 week from today. Anybody have any comments or questions? Get them submitted so it gives John and Don some opportunity to respond. So unless there's objection, let's make it 1 week from today will be the cutoff. Thank you. Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you, Chair. I have 2 quick questions. I was looking through the 2012 version, which I heard it's a total rewrite. But one of the things that I saw in there was it specified that the records from this board should be kept and kept for a year and where they should be kept. Did I miss that in the new edition? And if not, should it be included someplace?
It certainly can be included. I think my original draft, as I was laboring in my dark basement, had something about record retention. The state has record retention schedule that would apply even without express mention in this set of rules. We can add that.
Just as a reference, I think it would be good to, so that people going through this process know where the records are. You know, even just adding records will be kept per the state's rules or something. The second question is if the board chooses to employ their own counsel, where does the funding for that come from?
The ethics board is budgeted in the county's budget. I believe, I don't know the exact number, the dollar number that's in the budget for that purpose. It's fairly small because I don't think that situation would crop up very often at all.
Okay, so, but that's covered there in their budget.
I believe so. I know it used to be. I'm not sure with the 21 budget. 25,000. That's what I thought it was.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, John, Don, Andrew, if he's on, thank you for all the effort that you put in this and the thoroughness for which it was done. Again, board members, if you have questions to submit, let's do it cut off 5 o'clock a week from today. Gives them an opportunity to answer it, get it back on the agenda, and certainly get it approved before the 60-day time frame that Commissioner Sabatini asked about. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Commissioner. We really appreciate your assistance in making it happen for us with.
Thank you. Thank you for the time today.
Thank you, John. And we know you don't bill us by the hour, so that's okay.
No, I'm fixed overhead. I get paid the same whether I'm talking to you or sitting in my office with my eyes closed sleeping.
Thank you. Moving on. Next item on the agenda is resolution.
Here, we got a motion to receive and file, don't we?
Yes. Did we vote on that? No. Okay, then we'll call for a vote.
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next item is item 8, resolution 2021-6145, establishing legislative priorities for the 2021-2022 term. Again, this is going to be discussion. This is not going to require a motion to full board, so I will accept the motion.
Motion to receive and file by Romano.
Second, please.
Support from Kraft.
I have a motion by Commissioner Romano, supported by Commissioner Kraft. Chair Brown, did you want to speak to this?
Yes, thank you. Commissioners, this is a draft, a guide for us, the Kraft Board, our Board of Commissioners legislative priorities. It's a mixture of things that were included in past resolutions that the board supported, a mixture of the comments that our staff has heard from us in the last month and a half as they've gotten to know us, what some things are on our mind, some examples taken from other places, in a format that covers a variety of spectrums of which we all operate under. This is up for obviously debate or suggestions. This is something that's our document. I didn't want to bring something forward that would be directed on my point of view, but make it as inclusive as possible of all of our board in terms of what our individual priorities are and what we think as a board they should be, and reach a consensus if we can. There's items on there now that we could go through and say, yeah, we like this one, leave it in, and then there's some say, well, we want to strike this out, or maybe there's other items that we want to have in each of those categories. Again, it's a guide to go forward to. This was a format that's been used in other places, I'm told, and it's a way to start. And it's a new board. We've got different commissioners with various opinions and so forth like that. So I'm curious to perhaps I'm not sure how the chairman wishes to proceed, but we could honestly, but it's obviously been for review. But maybe if commissioners have their individual goals, they could submit it to staff and say these are some legislative priorities that I think are important that the board should accept collectively. Because again, ideally it's a collective document. It's not an individual document, but it's a collective document. And if we could reach consensus on most of it, that'd probably be a good thing for us all. It's a guideline for us, so that people know that the county as a whole knows what some of our policy goals are. Obviously, our internal team here on the county, our board, our staff, our county executive knows what our priorities are, as well as the state and federal representatives know what we're trying to work for and aim for, what our goals are. This isn't specific or policy goals, but general thrust, infrastructure goals, maintaining budget autonomy and making sure that our expenditures don't exceed our revenue, those type of things. So that's my opening thoughts on it. And those are my thoughts, and I want to know what the will of the board is. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I think what's most important in this statement that Chairman Brown indicated was this is our document. It's kind of like a guiding principle of our legislative priorities moving forward in the future. So with that, Commissioner Farrington.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I think I understand after that statement. Question, is this in the charter that we need to do this? Has it been tradition and done in the past? Where do we stand in those two questions?
I'll let Chairman Brown answer that.
Thank you. This is not in the charter. We're not required to do this. It's optional for the board. The board hasn't always done this in the past. In my long tenure on the board, back to the old Board of Commissioners, we didn't often do that, but we haven't more times than not. And so there's nothing that requires us to do so.
Okay. I guess my only perspective is I'm not a big fan of it. There's a lot of different points there, and we have 13 different people with 13 different perspectives and 13 different views of what our priorities are. And for me personally to sign off on a large document like this, my constituents, I think, would believe that I believe in all of them. So I have some concerns. So I just want to voice that. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Joyce, to Jeff's consistency, he voiced those same concerns up in Lansing. So thank you. Next is Commissioner Hung. Maya?
Thank you, Chair. First, I just want to say thank you to Chair Brown for initiating a legislative priority document. And I think it's important for us to have a discussion on what we want to include and exclude. And I'd be curious to know specifically, Commissioner Farrington, what some of the items that you were concerned with. And in addition, Chair Brown, you did mention infrastructure. I think that the governor has talked very much about fixing the damn roads. So I think it might be good to include something in here about fighting for our fair share of road funding, whether that is from the state or federal, because I think roads are very important. But you have a lot of great things in here. And it's good that we're having this discussion, but I'd be interested to know what the other commissioners think as well, too, because this is a group effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners.
Did you say Zinner? I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit for me.
You, Barb.
Thank you. Thank you. I really like I think it's really very good overall, and I really like the support for the businesses, because without our businesses, there's no growth, of course. there are, I really like Mai's idea, our Commissioner Song's idea of the roads. Yes, let's take care of the roads. That's a great idea. There are two areas that I would address under COVID-19, where it's talking about pre-existing conditions, people of color, and those living in dense areas. I understand about the dense areas and pre-existing conditions. I don't understand saying people of color, because I think we are concerned about everyone with pre-existing conditions and density and whatever. I just don't, to me, that's a racist statement. So that's the way I see it. I just think we should care about everyone, and I believe we do care about everyone. The other thing that I see is support the changing demographic, promote racial justice and economic equity. Well, justice and equity are both talking about fairness. And I believe in Macomb that everybody tries to be fair. I don't see that there's a difference in, I don't see a difference in race situation in Macomb. I mean, I've lived here all of my life. Maybe there's an area, maybe there's something, but I don't see that. I have never seen that. I don't see it. And I think this may promote something that is just not a problem. I think people get along overall. There might be areas, there might be days when someone's grumpy, but overall, everyone should have fairness. There's laws that make everybody be fair. So I just see everybody as the same. That's just how I feel. That's the way I was raised. That's the way I think Macomb is.
Thank you, Barb. Let me emphasize, we're talking about not philosophical issues, but legislative priorities. I would like to see, and I'll use an example, one of my colleagues in Lansing introduced a bill to clean the Great Lakes up. The price tag was something like $4 trillion. And Jeff knows who I'm talking about, so I'll let the person remain nameless. That's a legislative priority that's not even achievable or can't even be comprehended. So it never saw the light of day. So we need to be very careful here. And I applaud the chairman for wanting to do this with all the new members, but keeping in mind some of the priorities, if not all, need to have some type of achievability affiliated with them. I agree with Maya, something about fixing the roads definitely needs to be in there. We've heard this since what, 2000? That we need to fix the roads, and then we needed to fix the dam roads. So something like that needs to be in there. So I would just caution members, we need to focus on legislative priorities, and this is our document. We're going to come into a budget time where we're going to have to look at something and say, this is where the money needs to go. And we heard an awful lot about mental health in the last half hour. So that's just my caution warning. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Chair. There was a lot said. I agree with you. This isn't a philosophical document, so I'm not going to actually go down the road of that debate. We know there was a Macomb Daily article about a police officer in Warren that just had an insensitive thing on Facebook. So I don't think it's our role to try to put all our philosophies on a piece of paper, and I agree with you on that. So first I thought, okay, we really need to have in there that we want to promote programs that enable seniors to maintain their independence in their homes, because that saves us money. And then I thought, wow, we've got this jail that needs all these repairs, and we've got the whole sheriff's department, and we don't have anything in here about that. And that caused me to rethink. And what I came up with might work for people. I thought you guys came up with some really good topics. And instead of trying to put down each and everything under each topic, because we're all very different and have very different beliefs, what if each topic, like COVID-19 response, just has a general statement about our philosophies regarding it? Like that one could be a statement on promoting businesses and health within the community. Instead of getting into the detail of what each and every one of us is thinking, we might come up with a much shorter document that everybody can agree with. Just wanted to know what your thoughts were on that, Chair.
Well, anytime it's a shorter document has my support. First, be short and sweet and actionable. It's not a bad idea. But what you had indicated in your opening statement was it's not a philosophical document, but then we need to look at philosophical issues. We need to be very careful because this is our document. It's a guidance tool that I'm looking at it is, does that fit into where our budgetary spending is going? And you bring up a great point. There's nothing in there about the jail. And a year ago, the jail was the #1 priority. It dealt with everything. It dealt with media. It dealt with hiring. It dealt with how do we take care of prisoners. So we all have those types of issues. Having a brother and 2 cousins retire as sheriffs, their priority, except for when that was announced, as you know, the South End doesn't get sheriff patrols. So we need to be very careful. I applaud the chairman in trying to seek where we are in our thinking process on legislative issues. And when we're done, what I'm going to recommend is just like we did with the ethics ordinance. We submit our ideas to staff by 5 o'clock next Wednesday, or is today Wednesday? Yeah, next Wednesday, and hash them out from there. I don't mind debating any issue on any subject. So that's just my thought. Commissioner Matuzak.
Well, I may be the fly in the ointment here because I do not understand the purpose of this document. I do not understand how it would be used. There's so many things listed here. We might as well add world peace to the list.
I was thinking of that.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's not specific enough to have measurables on it. We can have a philosophical debate. I would respectfully disagree with Commissioner Zinner about the need to recognize racial differences in this kind of document. But I don't have a clue what we're doing with this. And if we did it 2 years ago, then I want to see what we've accomplished on it over those 2 years. If we did it 2 years ago, does it reflect in our budget priorities? Because our budget priorities are really what our focuses are. I just really don't get why we're doing this. I don't see the purpose of it, and I'm in general opposed to it. I just don't think it serves us well as a group. And unless it's tied to budget, unless it's tied to deliverables, unless it's tied to reports back to us that we've accomplished this or not accomplished that, I just don't think it's, I think it wastes our time. That's my thoughts on the matter.
Thank you. Great thoughts. And I heard Chairman Brown in there somewhere. Next is Commissioner Wallace, first time around.
All right. Yeah, I am kind of at a mix with all of it because I do like the document. I like what we have on there. I was also thinking about adding more, especially with the roads and just different things that I've received phone calls on, as well as things that I would like to see us accomplish. However, at the same time, I completely understand with what Commissioner Matuzak was saying, as far as measurables, because I think we all have come in with our own ideas and our own goals that we want to see in the county and specifically in our district. So I'm understanding both aspects. I also think that, we as a board, we need to, it's a thin line when we continuously voice what we have experienced as individuals, because we do represent a very large and diverse group. So my experiences would be in Macomb County would be completely different than Commissioner Zinner. So I think us as a board can discuss that and understand one another. But I do, with us representing the county as a whole, we just have to be more sensitive to our county and our communities, and what we say and how we say it. Because my experiences running for, just an example, my experiences running for board, I'm sure have been completely different. Death threats and racial comments, I'm sure some of you have not received that just because you wanted to sit on the board. So I think that we just need to be more inclusive. And if you haven't experienced, maybe ask someone what they have experienced. But that's my take on it all so far. Thanks.
Thank you. And before we move to, Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you, Chair. I agree in most part with Commissioner Matuzak about why do we have this document. I'm thinking that possibly we could have a document like this, but limit it to 5 or 6 high-level bullets, like fix the damn roads, keep the budget in check, ensure equal opportunity to all citizens. Very high-level things that we can all agree to. Very simple to understand and very simple to read and digest. When we get down in the weeds, like some of these comments are, the words can be interpreted different ways. I think if we keep it high level, we will do a much better job of communicating a high level 10,000-foot view of where we think we want to go to. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And before we move to round 2, Maya's the next speaker. I too agree with Commissioner Matuzak. When I worked at General Motors, they used to give us these goals and objectives charts we had to fill out. And then once we've identified those, then they came back and asked for the measurables, the deliverables, and then we had to rate ourselves as department heads of whether or not we achieved them. So I believe there was a governor recently, they used a step chart, a green, yellow, red step chart. But it was that administration that was putting the green, yellow, red dots on the step chart. So everything was either yellow or green. There were very few reds. So I appreciate what we're attempting to accomplish here. I don't know that it's accomplishable. So the fact that somebody mentioned 5 high-level targets, and that's what you're really looking at, those still need to be looked at to be deliverable and measurable, even if you're at solve world hunger. So we'll continue on the discussion, and we're on round 2. So Commissioner's up.
Thank you, Chair. I could see this document as being a roadmap and including high-level things, but I don't want this to be scrapped because I think it's moving in the right direction with more input from other commissioners. And I do want to address something Commissioner Zinner said earlier about it being racist when you're targeting people of color. And as a person of color, I don't see this as a racist statement. But there's been multiple reports published that people of color are more susceptible to COVID-19 because they have underlying health conditions based on where they live. Some of them might not have a primary care doctor. So again, I don't think that is a racist thing. And if we were to include something like that, I think that would be a good thing. Thank you, Chair.
I heard somebody in the background say you're done. Commissioner Zinner, second round.
Thank you. I appreciate what everyone has said. And I appreciate especially what Commissioner Matusik has said. I'm not going to get into campaigning and what I personally have gone through, but I will say with Commissioner Song, in all the documentation that I have seen and heard, I believe many of the situations that you're speaking of are high dense areas, that you have people in high dense areas that have problems. And that is the situation. So if you're in a high dense area of population, that's where they're expecting that people will have a more chance of getting COVID. If it's from someone's in a low financial situation, they may not see a doctor, and other situations that present themselves with that. So that may be in a Black area, but in some areas of the state or the country, it could be in a predominantly white area. So that's why I don't see things with color. I just don't look at people with color. I just look at how can we solve a situation. That's the way I look at people. And so the dense area, I think, of population is where things are passed more frequently, is according to the news and according to the documentation and what the doctors say more. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'm going to go back to Commissioner Van Sickle's statement. That's what we're trying to avoid, is that type of back and forth on this, which needs to take place, but it's not legislative priority. Chair Brown. I know he's there.
You're on mute.
Oh, thank you. Chairman, unmute yourself.
*6.
Mike, can you help our chairman out?
There we go. All right.
There we go.
All right.
Time for me to be silent. Anyway, thank you for the good comments. I mean, you know, I'm kind of a victim of my longevity on the board, right? We've done things a certain way. We've always put forward a certain format for legislative priorities. And I still think it's important that we do that. And I think it's good if we all submit our comments and questions. And it could be your comments I've already heard out here about some people say, well, we just don't need to do it at all because it's no good. Some people have 5 comments. Some people have other ideas that they want. I think we should all submit them in and see where that goes. And we'll have another discussion about that and see where we go. But I think we can reach consensus on major issues and themes. It's probably not a bad idea because we can tell Lansing, like I've been talking to the other regional chairs of boards of commissioners around our region, trying to find areas that we can all work together on as a region to help advance each of our own counties individually. And obviously the easy one's infrastructure, right? That's been on my mind, so that's why I tossed it out there. But there, if road structure is something we could all agree on, I've heard one time a great man say, you got to learn to agree. Start with things you agree with in a group, and getting in the weeds on things that, well, it's such diverse opinions and backgrounds. We're not going to agree on the details of everything, but the general goals we probably will. So let's see where this process goes, and let's move this forward. But it's also good for us to get to know each other, and to know each other's thinking. You know, so I think this is going to be a worthwhile process, and where it goes, I'm not sure, but I think in the end, I think we're going to have it'll be improved from what it is right now, and something we can all be proud of, hopefully. So we'll see. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Matuzak.
This is a related but not directly related point to this. We keep talking about legislative priorities, which in my world means we're lobbying the state legislature for something, or the U.S. House or whatever, which then brings up the question to me, do we have a lobbyist? And if so, what issues have we directed them to work on? And why don't we ever get a report from them if we do have one?
I can answer that. The answer is yes, yes, and it's coming. That concludes our discussion on this issue. We've agreed to our input to staff. If a week from today at 5 o'clock is a cutoff date, is fair enough. Let's focus on that. And if it turns out that we need more time, we need more time. Again, I want to emphasize this is our document, and I agree with Julie again. Well, that's twice in one meeting, Julie. That's all you get. If it's a legislative priority, it has to be measurable and have a deliverable with it. That's just corporate culture. And as much as I try to get away from it, it's in my blood. Commissioner Van Sickle, second time around. Is it on this subject?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to comment to Commissioner Matuzak. We as the county commissioners are the legislative branch of the county government. So I don't think it's not referring to other legislatures, it's referring to us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We have now we have Commissioner Kleinfeld.
I'm sorry, Chair, but I think this is important.
Chair, all right, go ahead, Kleinfeld.
Other people have had second rounds, so that don't do that again, Don. This is really important. Before
Veronica, that was Joe, by the way. So
Joe,
go ahead, Joe Romano.
Oh, don't do that, Joe. And my apologies, Don. Okay, before we all send things in, perhaps the next conversation should be whether it's going to be a handful of things or it's going to be a detailed roadmap, because I'm not sure we have direction as to which way we're going. And I don't think we need to settle that today. But before we know what to send in, I think we need to know whether we're going with the higher document. I think what Commissioner Van Sickle and I were saying were the same thing with respect to that, or we're going to scrap it all together, because if we can't come to an agreement on the things within the document, I'm with Commissioner Matuzak walking out the door. So, so the next discussion, what I would like to see is the actual discussion on how we want this document to look, so we know what to send in. Thank you.
And I've already made a note to go back and see what previous documents have been put together, what was in them, and what were the ground rules and establishment. So with that, Commissioner Romano.
I pass. Move on. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Commissioner Sabatini.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick comment. For the new commissioners too, I know years ago, you know, when the charter was initiated, back even on our website, I think it's on our website under the history, you know, what our power is through the charter and our obligations. So I think when everyone does create something to submit in, to just, take a look at that first too, just so that we're, collectively understanding our legislative responsibilities, as was discussed by previous speakers. So thank you, Chair.
Good point, Joe. So we have a motion and support on this issue. Please vote to receive and file our discussion. Good luck with that. Okay.
Actually,
Moving
Chair
on.
Hall, just quickly, Commissioner Zinner, I'm having an issue on my end. Could you unmute and give us a yes or no, and then I could announce the vote total?
I'm a little confused. Are we voting to accept this or to table it?
To receive and file.
Oh,
Receive and file.
thank you.
And so that motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Next item is proclamation. A proclamation commending Kathy Vosberg for her dedicated service to the Macomb County Board of the Mental Health Board and the Board of Commissioners. Motion to approve, please.
Motion by Romano to approve.
Support from Kraft.
Motion by Romano, supported by Kraft. Chair Brown, did you or Commissioner Kraft want to speak to this?
I think Commissioner Romano wanted to speak to this since I originally made the proclamation.
Okay, you have it, Joe.
Thank you, Chair. This originated with Chair Brown and myself with this proclamation commending Kathy Vosberg for her dedicated service in the Macomb County Community Health Board. And if I may, I'd like to read as why this proclamation was written and how it reads. And this is whereas the Macomb County Board of Commissioners would like to express appreciation and commend Kathy Vosberg for more than 13 consecutive years of dedicated service to the Macomb County Community Mental Health Board. And whereas dedication to the well-being and care of the individuals receiving services through the Macomb Community Mental Health System, coupled with the contribution of one's time and passion to causes which advance the betterment of the community, should be publicly acknowledged and recognized. And whereas Kathy Vosberg has confidently has invested an enormous amount of time, energy, and efforts to the Community Mental Health Board since April of 2008. She has deployed practicality in combination with creative problem solving as she devoted her time to support causes related to the most vulnerable and needy citizens of our county, ensuring these individuals have access to care and a safety net upon which they can depend. And whereas Kathy Vosberg has confidently served as a hardworking and devoted chair of the Community Mental Health Board since 2017, which she has resolved difficult challenges while leading the board through trying times and significant changes. Her successful efforts to streamline board proceedings led to the implementation of necessary advancements which will benefit the board for years to come. And whereas Kathy Vosberg's loyalty to her community has encompassed many areas through various roles. Throughout her career in public service, she has successfully served as Macomb County Commissioner, Board Chair of the Macomb County Board of Commissioners, Chair of the Justice and Public Safety Committee, Member and Chair of the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, SEMCOG, Member of the Macomb County Watershed Advisory Council, appointee to the Michigan Public Safety Frequency Advisory Committee, and has served on the Board of Directors of Compassion Pregnancy Centers of Macomb. She has also served her fellow residents of Chesterfield Township, Michigan as Township Trustee, and whereas her practicality combined with the flexibility in trying new methods, along with her creativity and great sense of humor, will be sincerely missed by all. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of Commissioners, speaking for and on behalf of all county residents as follows, that by these presents, the Macomb County Board of Commissioners hereby publicly recommend, acknowledge, and express appreciation and gratitude to Kathy Vosberg for years of service as a dedicated member and chair of the Macomb County Community Health Board. I'm sorry, Chair, that was not my motion. That was not my proclamation. I backed up. I read the wrong proclamation. I think that was Mr. Kraft's. And Mr. Kraft, I apologize profusely. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Romano. Phil was just smiling.
I don't know what else to say other than I apologize. I don't know what else to say. Sorry, Phil.
He was just smiling and nodding his head. So, Commissioner Kraft, you have the floor.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I think I'll read it again as the Vice Chair of Community Mental Health under Chair Vosberg. No, I'm kidding. I will save my comments for full board when Kathy Vosberg is supposed to be in attendance, and we can go from there. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Romano, I'll give you a pass on this one because my dog's barking. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm so sorry, Phil.
Thank you, Phil. We have a motion by Romano, supported by Kraft. Please vote.
I'm going to have to vote yes because I went too far back. I can't vote.
That motion passes 13-0 then.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 9B, proclamation recognizing the month of March as Women's History Month in Macomb County. Commissioner Kleinfeld, do I have a motion?
Oh, I thought they did both of them. I'll move. Kleinfeld.
Support Romano.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kyle, supported by Commissioner Romano. Commissioner Kleinfeld, would you like to speak to this?
No, I'm sure that we'll have, comments at full board. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussions? Seeing no further speakers, please vote.
Romano votes verbally yes.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is new business. Did I hear somebody? Any commissioner have new business to discuss?
One quick thing, and I don't want to discuss it today because of the lateness of the hour, but tomorrow, possibly under new business, is whether or not we want to extend the emergency order for a month so that we can do Zoom meetings due to the fact that a lot of people haven't had vaccinations. We can have the discussion tomorrow, though. Thank you.
I'm glad we're having it tomorrow, so thank you for that. Any other new business? Seeing none, we'll move on to the second hearing of the public. For those planning to speak during the second public participation, please be advised, according to Rule 21 of the adopted procedures, personal attacks, coarse, derogatory language, or cussing will not be tolerated. Individuals using such language will be removed from the meeting. Is there anyone that would like to speak at the second hearing of the public? In the chat box.
Chair, there's no one in the chat box.
Thank you. Second call, third call, public participation is now closed. Item 12 is closed session with independent counsel, confidential memorandum, privilege, attorney-client privilege, and attorney work product dated February 10th, March to March 20. We must have a vote to go into action, so I will entertain a motion. Is everybody gone?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Kraft. I need a second.
Second by Romano.
Had to get rid of the screen.
Second by Farrington to go into closed session. Please vote.
Romano votes verbally yes.
So we are rejoining back into the regular session of the Government Oversight Committee.
Motion to adjourn.
Pardon me?
Motion to adjourn.
Second by Farrington.
First of all, before we adjourn, I want to apologize for the length of time this meeting has taken, but I think we've made a lot of progress in doing so. So thank you for your patience, Commissioner. I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Please vote.
Yes.
Well, mine didn't prompt a vote, so I'm voting yes. There.
No glitch, commissioners. It's on its way. Just give it just 1 second there. Here we go. And that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Have a good evening, commissioners, and thank you for your patience.